Hello and welcome back to another episode of Finding Perfect Property, Diary of a Buying Agent. I'm your host, Camilla Dell, and today we have with us a very special guest, a design powerhouse and in every sense a true entrepreneur whose work has graced homes around the globe. Katharine embarks on her creative journey in the culturally rich landscapes of Bahrain, and today she's one of the most respected figures in the industry. I'm delighted to introduce the talented and influential interior designer, Katharine Pooley.
Thank you, Camilla.
Katharine, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
And also for hosting us today in your beautiful studio.
Thank you.
We normally film our podcasts in my office, but it's such a nice change to be in your beautiful space.
Thank you.
So thank you for having us. I'd love to start just by asking you about your journey. How did you get into this industry?
It's a very different journey to most people. I was living in Singapore and I decided to take 1 year off, having been in banking for 18 years for Morgan Stanley, and moved to Singapore and took up golf, piano and all those things that you want to do when you semi-retire for a year, and I ended up starting my own company. And I decided to go into Walton Street, opening up a home accessory shop for the luxury interior market. And before I knew it, within 9 months, Mohammed Al Fayed, the ex-owner of Harrods, came into my shop. This is before he had his interior design department, and said, please, can you come and do my house? And I wasn't really doing interiors.
Is house in London or in Singapore?
It was in London.
In London?
Yeah.
But he found you in Singapore?
No, sorry, I moved back. moved to Singapore, then moved Singapore to London,
Okay.
and then I started up my own boutique, and then he came into the shop. So
fantastic.
I sort of fell into it.
Yeah.
Have always loved it, always been passionate about it, studied it, and just fell into it. So.
And you grew up in the Middle East. Tell us a little bit about
So my mother and my stepfather were posted to Bahrain. They were there in the 70s. So I grew up as an expat, if you like. But I didn't live there continuously because I went to boarding school in the UK. But my mother was there for 44 years, so a really long time. Big part of my life actually was in the Middle East and in Asia, because I was in Hong Kong 18 years, Singapore 3 years, Vietnam a year. So a long time I've been away.
Amazing to have sort of had experience living in two really different, culturally diverse
Absolutely.
Environments.
And I think that's really important, Camilla, because it gives me a real insight into different cultures, gives me a real insight into how they live, what they want, what they expect. I feel totally at ease in both parts of the world, very comfortable, can be quite intimidating, but no, I feel like going home.
Fantastic. And I mean, I might not need to ask you this. Maybe it was Momo Al Fayed, but I was going to ask you what was your big break that sort of, everyone has a moment in their career where it was just like a moment where they go from, just doing something to like, yes, I'm in the big time now. Was there a moment or a particular client or a particular project when you just thought, I'm going to be hugely successful?
No. I don't even think to this day I feel I've been hugely successful. I think we're so busy that you don't really ever stop, do you, and have that cup of coffee and think, have I made it yet? I think you're always pushing yourself for the next move. It's very hard having your own business. We'll talk about that a bit later.
Yeah.
But it's constant. You never relax. You never let your guard down. You're always trying for the next move. I don't think I've ever stopped and said, I'm good.
Okay, that's very humble. My next question is really just about the industry. It's hugely competitive, as is mine. Every day there seems to be another buying agent that opens up in my world. I think it's similar in the interior design world. What do you think has kind of kept you ahead of everybody else? And, what's been the secret of your success?
Yeah, that's very sweet, Camilla. There is a lot of competition out there. There's a bit like in America, there's a lot of people that claim to be interior designers and perhaps aren't.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who've been in the industry many, many years that you can really learn from. But actually, there's a lot of business out there. There's enough for everybody. And I think it's really important to try to embrace all different styles, all different ways of working, all different businesses. We're all very different. I try to encourage to be friends with your competitors. Don't alienate them.
interesting.
Because you're stronger together than you are apart, in my opinion. Every year I do try to have an amazing dinner, and I invite the creme de la creme in the industry, and we touch on notes of how, has it been a good year? Has it been a bad year? What are clients like? What's happening? What's the trends? Blah, blah, blah. I think it's really important to talk and chat and discuss and figure out.
I think that's, not everybody feels that way, but I think that's definitely a good thing.
And learn from the older generation in this business.
Yeah.
Because, you take someone like Nina Campbell, she's been at, I think, 50 years. I had lunch with Mary Fox Linton not so long ago, and she was there in the 60s, 50s.
Yeah.
And listening to her stories is incredible.
Yeah.
It's just, unfortunately, a very different job nowadays. A lot of it's about money and how they're going to get the return on their money, and spatial planning and resales. And I mean, whoever would have thought that when we were buying houses, 70s, 80s, which were what, £60,000? I'll never forget when I first came to London and I wanted to buy a flat, 2-bedroom flat in Pimlico. It was £60,000. I couldn't afford that. Whereas now, I wish I'd had £60,000 then, because it's millions.
Yeah.
Right? And nowadays we're spending so much money on our homes. It's amazing how expensive interiors is.
Yeah.
And build work, actually.
Definitely. That's also a trend that we've noticed. Things are changing. Things are becoming more expensive, definitely. And sort of on that theme of things changing, in terms of, marketing and getting your name out there, obviously you are well known, but you also have a huge social media following. I think you've got just under 120,000 followers on Instagram. I wanted to ask you, firstly, were you an early adopter of Instagram, and how important do you think social media is for your business?
It's a very good question. So I was in Daphne's having lunch with my Q8 clients who said, but Katharine, why aren't you on Instagram? And this was probably 10 years after it started. It's an exaggeration, but it was years after. So I was very late at coming to the table.
Okay.
Am I a social media person? I think it's important for today's environment. But actually, if you look at the best of the best in the industry, they have very little social presence. And why is that? Because they like to keep it secret. A lot of our clients, we sign NDAs, you'll see a lot of repeat social media going on. That's because a lot of my clients, I would say 8 out of 10 clients don't want me to photograph their homes.
Yeah.
I'm completing 12 projects in the next 3-4 months, and I'm not allowed to film any of them.
Yeah.
So there's also some companies that you have a website, you have to get a password to go onto their website. I do see that social presence is great because a lot of people want to come in and just see what you're doing. But is that really our competitors, or is that the clients? It's really word of mouth, I think.
Okay.
It's a balance.
It is a balance. So would you say that you've never managed to get a client off social media as a result of social media? Someone's rung you up and saying, I've seen your Instagram page, I love it, I want to hire you. Has that ever happened?
Of course. I would say probably 4.
Yeah.
Not many.
Yeah.
Most of my business is repeat business.
Yeah.
Or word of mouth.
Yeah. Very, very similar to mine.
Is it? Yeah.
Very, very similar. And I think I share your view in that I think it's important to have a presence, to look like you're, a professional company, and that your page is run properly. But actually putting things on there is difficult. It's the same for me. Lots of my clients are very private. They don't want their properties on our social media feed once we found them for them. So
well, it's also very interesting, Camilla, because I find every time I put something up, then my competitors will check and do exactly the same.
Yeah.
So, we started this amazing charity, Childhood Trust, and House and Gardens gave us an amazing achievement award last year, which is quite an honour.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden everybody else is doing exactly the same.
Yeah.
And it's great that they're doing it because they're helping people that need help. But do your own thing.
Yeah. Be
unique. Be imaginative.
Yeah.
Don't copy. It's just...
I'm with you on that. I share the same concerns, and I see the same things happening to me.
I've just come back actually from the Middle East, and I said to my team, you know what, don't put where I'm going and what I'm doing, because then they'll want to do it. It's really important that you've got to be unique, you've got to be original, you've got to be authentic actually and honest.
Yeah.
Do your own thing.
Yeah. Good advice. You've worked on so many amazing projects. I mean, from looking at your website, you've done super yachts, you've done alpine ski chalets, British country estates, chateaux in France, palaces in the Middle East. I even saw on your website a racetrack hotel in China. So just an amazing variety of global projects. What has been your most memorable or favourite project? Could you pick one?
You're right, they're all different, and they're all different because we like that diversity, don't like to get bored, don't like to be put into a little pigeonhole. I think where I've had a strong relationship with a client, and I still see them today, a lot of my projects in Kuwait, for example, they were my first client back in 2006. And the fact that we're still such good friends and we're still doing their homes all over the world, I think that shares a special part for me. We also did a very big project in Cannes 4 years ago, completed I think last year, maybe it was the year before now. And I think he really needed our help in terms and gave us a little bit of breadth to do design naturally. So we brought in all the different elements. So for example, in Cannes they actually have a lot of bamboo and a lot of different trees that are indigenous to that area. So we then incorporated them into our design. And it's really lovely when you have free reign to be able to design for the area and the space and the culture, not necessarily just for the client. Yeah. We had great fun.
Amazing. I wanted to ask you, as a fellow business owner, 19 years, so you've got 2 years on me, I've been going 17. How do you deal with managing your time? And also, this is sometimes a problem that I have. You meet a client and all the clients want you to be personally involved in their project. And I'm guessing, you've got 12 projects on the go at the moment and, maybe more in the pipeline. How do you manage that in terms of everybody wanting you, the face of the business, the name of the business?
So I currently have 42 projects working at the moment, 12 that we're installing at the moment. We do have, you're right, everybody wants me, but I have a management board that have all been with me 14 to 20 years, so a long time. We've all had our kids together, they understand Katharine Pooley inside out, and they really help me. I cannot travel to every single country at the moment, so we do divide it. I've obviously just been to the States, I've just been to the Middle East, Saudi, Doha, Qatar, about to go to Saint-Tropez. I mean, I am doing a lot, don't get me wrong, but I will always be involved in every single project. It's just who I am, and I think it's critical.
Amazing. It's a powerhouse. I want to sort of move on about trends. Everyone always talks about the latest trends, and I just wanted to know, what are the latest trends? What are the things that you're most excited about at the moment? I also wanted to ask you about sustainability, a bit of a buzzword at the moment. Everyone's talking about it. Is it actually possible to build a net zero carbon house? What are your thoughts around trends and sustainability?
So let's go back to trends first. I really try not to follow them because trends, a bit like flares, come in and go out, it's so fast. Yeah. Stick with what you love, what you think the client loves. Listen to the client. I think that's critical. Sustainability is a word that's being thrown everywhere. In fact, I was in Saudi recently talking at the Global Luxury Hospitality Summit, and one of the topics was sustainability. It's more about net zero, not sustainability. We are aiming towards B Corp, which is a big thing right now. Yeah, we're very close to getting the Butterfly Award. Wow, which is one step to the B Corp. It's not always about you. It's about the people that you use and their followers. So, for example, joinery, where does the wood come from? Where are they cutting it down? Why are they cutting it down? If it's all coming from Madagascar, for example, well, that's just decimating a country. So you really have to do research with the people that you're using. Yeah. Is it possible, net zero house? Not yet, but we're getting there. I think it's a real focus for everybody, and it's wonderful that companies really want to be joining this B Corp, the net zero. It's great for their reputation, but hopefully it will solidify the fact that we need to save the planet now.
Are you finding clients are asking you more about where are the materials sourced from? Are they showing interest in actually building more environmentally sound homes?
We're working on 3 projects right now where very intelligent clients that just want this. They're pushing our boundaries, which is fantastic, but we're learning along the way. So yes, they're coming, absolutely.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Reassuring.
sort of moving on to styles, I know you've said that you don't follow trends, which is great, but do you think that there is a Katharine Pooley house style?
I try not to have a house style.
Yeah.
If we put yourselves into a house style, it means you're putting a round circle into a square hole. And it's not about that. You're different to me. I'm different to the cameraman. Yeah. We all try to have different styles. And I think if you can be diversified, you're going to have more longevity in your career by being able to do as many different designs as possible. Also gets boring.
Absolutely. So what's your approach with clients then? You meet a client for the first time and they have no idea. So how do you start to build a picture of what they might like? Talk us through sort of the journey that you go through with a client from meeting them through to actually having a plan in place. Yeah.
So I think it's really important to begin with. You sit down and you go through the GAs, the general arrangements. You know, the space is critical. There's no point being a brilliant designer and not understanding the space. You've got to get the space right. You've got to understand their lifestyle. You also understand about their family. A lot of it is a personal connection, getting to know them, what they want, how they're going to live in it. Is it a holiday home? Is it a forever home? Then, of course, it's about designing with them. A lot of this is interviewing techniques. And I would say we spend a good 4 to 6 hours with them trying to understand all their wishes before we even go into the designing of the furniture and the fabric. A lot of my clients say, can we go and do some shopping together?
Yeah.
Special pieces, we go to Pad or Freeze. We enjoy that interaction with them. And it's not an instant journey. You can't expect to know someone immediately, can you?
Yeah.
It is a journey. But by the end of it, we get it right.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Obviously, as a sort of a busy working mum, sort of more on the kind of, life-work balance, how have you managed to juggle that over the years?
Okay, this is a really good topic right now. You can't, you won't, and don't think you ever can, okay? As long as you feel that you're doing your best, I think that's all that matters. I think it's really hard when your kids are between 2 and 6. Were they really dependent on you? I was living in London at that time, so I could be with them at a moment's notice. They were happy in their schools. I could go home every night, whereas nowadays my boys are at boarding schools, so they're a little bit older. We speak every night at 6 o'clock in the evening. We make sure we have that contact with them. If they're rowing or doing a sport, we're there every Saturday, the one screaming on the edge of the river. Not that they like that. But trying to get that balance, it is difficult. Yeah. There's no doubt that I always feel guilty, am I doing the best? But it's only when they come to you. In fact, I got an email from my son very recently and he just said, Mama, I just want you to know I'm so grateful for all the hours of work that you do to allow me to be at this school. It's moments like that where you go, I'm doing okay.
And are they tempted to follow your journey? My kids are always saying to me, Mum, we're going to run black brick when we're older. And I say, no, you're not. I know you're not. You're going to make your own way in life.
Do you know what? My father is very adamant that we all take on his businesses. I'm the reverse. It's reverse psychology. So I've always said to them that you do what you want to do. So one son wants to go in the Marines, the other son wants to be a hedge fund and own a big boat. As long as I'm on it, that's fine.
Absolutely.
But no, I've
design it as well.
And charge a big fee. But no, I've always tried to say you do your own thing because I actually think it's really important they go and do their own thing.
Yeah.
And then they come back and they're happier that they've got something. I don't want to put it on a plate.
Yeah.
They've got to earn it.
100%. And there's not many male interior designers out there when you think about the industry. I mean, there must be some.
They're up and coming, actually. Yeah. There's a lot more than you think there is.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. Again, I went with my managing director to Saudi and I was saying, you're lucky you go home every night and see your kids. I don't go home every night. And sometimes I do find that hard.
Yeah.
It's trying to find the balance.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to sort of ask you as well, just about the future. What is the future for Katharine Pooley? What do the next 10 years look like if you could sort of paint a magic wand in terms of where your business is going?
Sleep. Do you know, it's really interesting because, again, I went to Saudi with my managing director so we could talk about this. My last 20 years, where did they go? Where did they just happen? Sometimes you don't really plan or think. We have a formidable team, there's no doubt about it. We're very, very global. We speak many languages. We have a lot of diversity. We're bringing out another book. We're having more offices. It's my 20th anniversary this year. Where am I going to be in 20 years? I don't know. I wish I knew. I don't want to look in a crystal ball.
10.
Oh,
Give
10,
us 10.
10 years.
Give us the 5. Give us the 5 or 10 year view.
I just hope that I'm a part of this great British interior design. I really do. It's very hard industry right now.
Yeah.
There are still jobs, but not as many.
Yeah.
Everybody is fighting for it. I think the world is in a very tricky place. We all think that Saudi's booming, but actually they're doing it for the next 6 years so that they've got something for the future. Dubai is doing the same, but is there the big projects? No. Is America great? Yeah, they've got the big projects right now. Okay. So it's trying to find that balance. If would I like to open an office in America? Yes, possibly. We're going into the hospitality hotel industry. Okay. We're branching out more into that area. Not because it necessarily brings more money, but it's just a diverse look and feel. We want to do an awful lot more yachts. Am I interested in about winning awards now? Not really. Yeah. Do I want to grow my business more? No, not really. Yeah.
Although opening an office in the States would be growth.
It would be growth, yeah, it is. The bigger the office, the harder it is to manage. Yeah. I'm starting to do an awful lot more talks. I was at the Great British Brands. I was at the Great Campaign. I was at this luxury summit for hotels. I'd love to give back a little bit more, I think, to the industry.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. So I'm going to move on to the end of our podcast. We always love to finish our podcast by asking our guests top tips. So can you share your 3 top tips for somebody wanting to redesign their space?
Design intelligently, design honestly, and just make sure you listen to the client.
Good advice. What do you think, if you had to choose one element that you believe can make or break an interior design, what would it be?
You have to have the right team. Undoubtedly, you have to have the right team. And picking the right team, as we know, Camilla, is really hard.
Yeah.
But follow your gut.
Yeah.
And make sure you pick the best.
Yeah, because it's not just the interior designer. There's if you're doing
whole team.
Massive project,
absolutely,
then it's architects, planning consultants.
And they have to work together.
Yeah.
And they have to be in harmony. That's what that shouting's going on about upstairs.
Good advice. And then sort of just looking at young, budding interior designers, wannabes that want to get into the industry, what would be your advice to somebody thinking about getting into this industry?
I've had so many. I do a lot of talks at the colleges, and a lot of them ask me this question. Having your own business is not easy, right? You've got to be a plethora of different professions. You have to do your PR, you've got to be a great salesperson, you've got to be creative, you've got to be a human resource manager, you've got to be an accountant. I mean, it's exhausting. So don't just think you're going to go and have a lovely time with beautiful fabrics. It's not about that at all. It's about managing a huge multi-million-dollar company, and the risks, the responsibility, the pressures. You're constantly on the phone. You never really have a holiday. Is that what you want when you start your own company? Think before you jump.
And then somebody that just wants to get into it as a profession, they don't necessarily want to run their own business. What would your advice be for somebody just looking to get into the profession and work for a great company? I
think 2 things. One, you've got to have great background. So go to a KLC or an Inchbald, make sure, or Parsons in New York, make sure you've got good understanding, because interiors nowadays is not cheap. It is expensive. So they want good value for money. And secondly, just make sure that you know what you're doing. You really understand it, and get great work experience from anybody in the industry, because you'll learn from them when you go on to have your own company or go and work for somebody else. I wish I'd had that. I never had work experience with anybody in the industry, which I think would have given me great understanding of how other people do it. My company is my company. It's my way. Yeah. That makes sense.
That's good advice. I thought of one more top tip that I'd love to ask you. There's often a saying in terms of how people dress, that if you spend money on a great handbag and a great pair of shoes, like your outfit can be from anywhere, and you look polished and you look the part. With interior design, is there a similar analogy? Like, where does it make sense to really spend the most money, and where could you actually afford to go a bit, high street if you needed to?
Okay. I think all the way through you can do what you like. It doesn't have to be an expensive product. Okay. I mean, materials, you can go something that's £300 square metre, and you can get something exactly the same for 100. Yeah. It depends on the look and feel and what you want. Okay. I think beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Okay. And look, I think joinery is important.
Yeah.
I get really upset when I don't have integrated lighting or soft close or the handles look cheap.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to mean it's got to be more expensive. It's just quality. Yeah. And actually, I'm a great big fan of Quest. That's the British standard of beautiful craftsmanship. And I really do support British craftsmanship because at the moment, I think it's the best in the world.
Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of this month's episode of Finding Perfect Property, Diary of a Buying Agent. Thank you so much to Katharine Pooley for joining me today and hosting us in your studio, and also sharing all of your valuable insights about interior design, your journey, your top tips. I really hope our listeners have found some golden nuggets in today's episode. For more information about how to purchase property in prime central London, please get in touch via our website, and don't forget to like and subscribe on whichever podcast channel you choose to listen. See you next time.